even though all is long, no matter what, come on, you make it. Yes, I will make it. Remember the days of toting water, anytime that you have to pay. But when people pass and they see you, oh my Lord, used to feel that shame. Wondering if this lasts forever, wondering when you will feel proud. If it's one thing Daddy didn't tell me, there is sunrise after each cloud. I say even
though. Thank you very much. The people of South Trinidad, Thick Village in Siparia. And of course, those of us who are visiting you here tonight. By the time I get to the microphone, everything has already been said. So I think what we need to just say now is, great is the PNM. And remember the date of the polling day, which is August 14th. But I see some bright eyes still tonight. Well past your bedtime, eh? So we'll take a little time to mention a few things to you before we conclude our proceedings. But I want to just acknowledge my colleagues on the head table, executive members in the audience, particularly Mrs. Joe Newell-Williams, who's always with us every time, everywhere. And you see, if I am to speak to you about the matters that are making the noise in the country, there are a lot of things we can talk about, because we have some friends in this campaign who they read the papers or they listen to the radio, and whatever is on the news, they get a campaign and they start to gin up that rah, 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 and somehow they stick the word in it, constitution, and that is their campaign. So tonight, as I've come here to you now, I could talk to you all night about procurement legislation, and how the government intend to undermine the Constitution. And for the fourth time, one of our national leaders go on a platform, have nothing to say, just tear up paper, whatever paper she gets in hand. Manifesto, draft bill going to Parliament. If you can't debate it, engage the issue, just tear it up. But not tonight, according to a particular politician, not tonight. You hear, I mentioned our pastor in San Fernando, that we are going to be fighting the criminal element with the help of the US authorities, the FBI, the ATF, and the DOJ. We'll be fighting, joining us in the fight against the supply and transport of firearms into our country. I could talk about that whole night, because that is a big issue in the local government election campaign for our friends. And of course, there's some echo chambers. As soon as one dog bark, all the potholes start to bark. So the Prime Minister mentioned vetted units in the police service. I hear people now saying, oh, that will destroy the police service. That will destroy the Constitution. We have so many vetted units already in the police service. So many. So to speak about one that's going to focus on the whole question of trafficking in firearms and persons and guns and ammunition, which are the big issues threatening our safety and our security, that is a local government election campaign. And of course, with the procurement matter, as soon as we heard the issue in public, and they heard that we had obtained some goods and services, rented some motor cars, bought some flowers, got some hotel rooms for our guests. Oh man, the country turned upside down, because the procurement legislation has been destroyed by the government, and there's an error in the law. And the Minister of Finance has used the error of the law. The Minister of Finance used the error in the law. In other words, he followed the law. And he used the error in the law to hire some cars and to buy some food. So the whole country capsized, and that is the local government election campaign. But we understand that there are difficulties in the law. we've discovered face to face. If there is, we're going to fix it. So we summoned the parliament to go and fix it, because every single day, somewhere in the government or many areas in the government, you have to do procurement of some kind or the other. You have to get things every single day in the government. You can't wait until September when the parliament come back in September to do that. Because in the intervening period, we have to breathe, we have to work. The country has to go on. Oh man, if they call back the parliament and not coming because that is the constitution, they're undermining the constitution, the parliament on recess. You all remember Section 34? You remember that story where they go in the dead of night and proclaim the law, one clause in the law to allow the Friends to escape the courthouse? And when you all rose up as you are here in your thousands tonight and marched to President House, what did Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bissesa do? She summoned the parliament back. Pressure, busting pipe, water, more than flour. She summoned the parliament to come and reverse the law. That didn't overthrow the country. It didn't undermine the constitution. But it's a shame heavier than load. And even as they're saying that, today on my phone, I see a notification where the head of the executive in Tobago has summoned the assembly to come out tomorrow morning for a special session. I have not heard a word yet from the UNC about the undermining of the THA on that. But all of us waiting to see what is this thing that caused the assembly tomorrow to be called out in special session for a statement to be made on the democracy of Tobago. We wait and we will see. So how come it is okay for the UNC government in Trinidad and Tobago to call out the parliament? It's okay for the chief secretary to call out the THA. But it's not okay for the PNM to call out the parliament to go and fix what she says is an error in a law that we need to use every day going forward. I ask you tonight to ignore the UNC. It is only idlers, and more idlers who could spend their time in such useless and wasteful days. Now I say tonight, I'm down here in Siparia tonight. It's a good place to put this call out. And I'm putting this call out to all our citizens in this deep southland of our nation. Stop wasting your time and obstructing the country's development. Come join the PNM. Come, let us build a nation together. As Merchant would have said to us in song, come my brother, come my sister, come, let us build a nation together. The fact that we are in different parts of the country, or we belong to different political parties, that is the system we use to organize our management. Elections are about choosing management, choosing leaders to manage your affairs. It is not about making enemies and talking foolishness on platform night after night. Every Sunday is some stupidness, is some lie. Every Monday is some press conference, is more lie. Come, let us build a nation together. I don't know what goes through the minds of people who are running the UNC. But I could tell you, they have taken a decision to lie to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I am leading a government. I'm leading a political party. Nowhere in any of our dealings, not somebody making a suggestion nothing in print, nothing in words, that we are having something called an inheritance tax. But in an election campaign, a local government reform election campaign, you call it that. The UNC come up with something called an inheritance tax. Just come up just so with this lie, you know. And we tell them from day one, you are telling a lie, stop it. If you want to discuss the nation's tax program, the nation's taxes, we could do that. That might be very opportune in local government, but 25% inheritance tax. Nowhere in Trinidad and Tobago is that part of any governance discussion or intention. You know, you tell them that every day. You tell them that Monday, Tuesday, they're paying and putting an advertisement in the newspaper, trying to incite you to go with them to fight inheritance tax. Well, that is worse than Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. Because Sancho Panza was the Don Quixote and was seeing mirages, and he was going to fight windmills, and he had his spear and his sword to fight. At least he thought there was a windmill to fight. What is the UNC fighting? Especially since they know it's them make up the same lie. What kind of people is that? You know you make up the lie. How you could be calling on people to fight the lie that you know is a lie? But that should tell you they will do anything and everything to stay far from local government in the local government election. They want you to make a political decision to cast your vote in a local government election on anything except local government. You know why? Because they took a position earlier in their tenure as opposition in this country, that as opposition, they will not support anything that the government comes with, in the hope that if they do that, the country will collapse. What kind of people is that? You want your own country to collapse so that you could get office? So they took a position, their official position is that they will not support anything that the government is doing, that the government brings, because they want the country to collapse. They left office leaving us two things. One, a period of economic decline and revenue reduction. That was one. The other one was serious, significant, violent crime surge in the country. So violent was the crime surge during their tenure, they declared a state of emergency to deal with it. Don't let them and the stupid talk now make you believe that all was hunky-dory, safe and sound when they was in office, you know. In fact, they were part of the criminal element, the white-collar one. So when we came into office, we made that. And we as a people, like other people around, have to deal with it, because that is what governments do. Governments are elected to deal with problems of today and the future. So they want to give you the impression that they somehow, their presence in government will put an end to criminal conduct. When they were in office, there was significant criminal misconduct. As a matter of fact, way back in Basdeo Pandy's tenure, they killed 2 people inside the Prime Minister compound. You remember that story? So what is this magic that they have that if they're in office, crime going to disappear? And of course, they don't want to deal with anything good. Up comes a pandemic. The whole world is fighting it. What did the UNC do during the pandemic? Did you ever hear them one day saying, Trinidad and Tobago, let's ban our belly, let's wash our hands, let's put on our masks? You ever hear that? During that pandemic that lasts almost 3 years, can anybody in this room point to one day, one occasion, when our friends and colleagues and cousins in the UNC took the position to say, let us hold hands and fight this invisible killer? Instead, every Monday morning they're going in the courthouse. taking the doctors and the nurses and the government to the courthouse, lying to the court about things that were not happening. It got as far as the Privy Council, when the Privy Council eventually ruled that the government acted properly in the action it has taken to protect the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So I tell you this so you could know, it have two kind of people in Trinidad and Tobago. People who are for Trinidad and Tobago and people who are against Trinidad and Tobago. And you know who is who. We of the PNM right here in this very room, because we have now come to the point of dealing with local government. One of many things that we have dealt with, are dealing with, and will have to deal with. We allocate some time for local government now, by law. The Election and Boundaries Commission is involved. Even that they're attacking. And talk about lie. The head of the Election and Boundaries Commission is a woman whose surname is Coffee. We used to have a minister in our government called Maxi Coffee. You know, it have a Coffee, C-U-F-F-Y. I know that one, I'm son-in-law of them. And they have a Coffee spelled F-F-I-E. Coffee in the PNM is one spelling. Coffee at the EBC is the other spelling. You know, Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bissessa was told on many occasions, after Wademark and his friends lied on the EBC head that she is Maxi's niece, and the PNM put she there to undermine the process and to do wrong things for the PNM. No, Olio, they're not related. It sounds the same, but one is a C-U-F-F-Y coffee, and the other is a C-U-F-F-I-E coffee, and they're not related. That was since Maxi was in the government to start that, eh? You know, a couple of weeks ago, Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bissessa, in her campaign against this institution of this country, wrote to the CARICOM Secretariat head office in Guyana, complaining that we put a government minister needs to run the Election and Boundaries Commission. And therefore she wants observers to come to observe the election because the government minister needs running the EBC, and therefore you will have election cheating. Signed, Kamala Prasad Bissessa. What kind of people are these? I would like to think I am proud of every Trinidadian and Tobagoan, but I can't say that because those who killing people for fun and for a living are not proud of you. And those who lying to our children, I'm not proud of you, but I have hundreds of thousands of you of all race, color, creed, and class, and in geographical locations in this country. I'm proud of you. Tonight, I am so pleased here in Siparia to look at this audience and to see in this audience so many young people making up the audience in political activity. And many of these young people, they've all come voluntarily. Many of them have come forward in this crowd tonight to offer themselves for service in local government. And that tells me that notwithstanding the nastiness, the worthlessness of the UNC, our country is in good hands. We can talk to you about local government because we have been in local government from the very beginning when Dr. Williams formed the PNM. One of the founding members of that party became the longest serving member of parliament in the Commonwealth. His name was Kamaluddin Mohammed. He came to the PNM from local government, bringing that experience of government at the base level. And he functioned in the PNM up to the highest level you can say. When I joined the party, the first lecture I got as a young PNM potential parliamentarian was from Kamaluddin Mohammed. And the country's record will never be raised. His contribution and the PNM's record will never be raised because that is history. And it's not only Kamal. I mean, today the Speaker of the House, Bridget Anisette George. Many of you see her as speaker. You know she's a prominent legal luminary in the legal fraternity. She was a local government practitioner in the PNM. She came into public life in local government before she became speaker. I can mention in the cabinet today a number of persons who came to us via local government. Service, indeed, at the base level, where people are in touch with their government. Simon Dinobriga, Member of Parliament. Faisal Rowley, he came via local government too. Kazim Hussein, you just heard about Kazim Hussein, who followed in his father's footsteps in San Fernando, serving at local government. Penny Beckles in Arima, who is today in the cabinet as Minister of Planning and Development. Anthony Garcia in Arima, he was a lone PNM local government person, but so effective was he that the next time around, the PNM won the corporation, he won the seat and became the Minister of Education in this country. Local government generates that kind of understanding of our country and its institutions and its service stations. Rohan Sinanan, today Minister of Works. He was in local government. He was an alderman in Tunapuna Piako Corporation for the PNM. On the table here tonight, Kennedy Richards. He came out of local government. Today he's a member of parliament for Point 14. He was here tonight. Party officer, hard-working stalwart, Indar Parashram, who just presented these candidates. He is local government. We had a funeral recently, a few days ago, where we lost one of our prominent stalwart, Rudal Lalman, local government practitioner. And if I speak about the stellar performance of our PNM people, I have to speak about Orville London, who was the record-breaking chairman of the Tobago House of Assembly as Chief Secretary, who became Chief Secretary and retired from that position undefeated. He started out as a councillor in the Tobago House of Assembly. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we can talk about local government because the PNM knows local government. And we are saying at this point in time to the country, after years of work, years of consultation, years of drafting documents, years of being in the parliament, we now have an election and say it is time to bring about local government reform. You heard somebody said a while ago that, well, you know, I just tell you about the stream of lies that come from the UNC. So I'm not surprised that one of the lies is that the leader of the PNM is a dictator. The letter that she writes to people all around the world to ask up the country name. I'm being accused of being a dictator. I just came from this afternoon. I spent the afternoon with Darren Marcel on 95.5. Darren Marcel is from local government. He was a local government practitioner. And he introduced a conversation with me this afternoon saying, well, you have called the election for August 14th. I have to remind him, dictators don't call elections. Dictators don't call elections. Dictators do what the UNC leader are doing, fall in love with office and can't leave it. Understand? But my colleagues will tell you from day one, since they met me, I always tell them, enjoy your period of service, but don't fall in love with office. So, these are people that we have who, some of them actually took part in the process that got us here. Many of you in this audience, I'm seeing faces that I know served some time. Pump here from Labrie. Years in local government. We have our ladies at the back there, some of them returning incumbents, still leading the youngsters who are coming in for the first time. You heard one of our youngsters tonight. He's on his way into local government. Quality person, quality representation being promised there. But even the chairman of the Siparia Corporation, who is a UNC chairman of that corporation, which has gone out to be replaced by the borough, you would have seen them on videos talking about how the local government system as it exists is not delivering and not functioning as we anticipate that they could. Anybody who lives anywhere in this country can tell you about the non-functioning and the tales of woe and the disappointment, how some things could easily have been fixed if certain things were in place. We all have our stories. I am a member of parliament in Diego Martin West. I have a corporation there which is now a borough. I know what it is to receive from people complaints about what should be done on their street, in their neighborhood, at their doorstep. But you can't get those complaints dealt with because something called the system doesn't deliver it. The system doesn't allow that. The system doesn't allow this. That is a phrase that everybody in this country knows. The system doesn't allow certain things to happen. What we are saying here now in local government reform, let us change the system. So we are going to change the system for the better. And we didn't just wake up and say so. They are invoking the Prime Minister's comments about vetting police officers as an election campaign. They're invoking the procurement of the legislation, the proclamation of the procurement legislation as the election campaign. They're invoking the calling of Parliament as the election campaign. We don't have to do any of that. We are campaigning on local government reform because we have done the work in preparation of the nation moving towards the changes that should be made to change the system. So all we are doing now is saying to the population, the time has come to effect it. We talked about it. We worked with it. We wrote about it. We discussed it. On August 14th, let us join hands and build a nation together on a foundation of local government. That's what it is. But they want things to talk about election campaign, writing people around the world about the Prime Minister being a dictator. Me, dictator. You know who's a dictator? When a minister in your government talk to the police and tell the police the truth, and it results in whatever other ministers being charged, and you fire the minister who tell the truth, you are a dictator. That's a dictator. In the PNM, you just heard tonight that one of the things that I can be credited for is dismantling the delegate system, where about 800 people across the country had the authority to vote to choose the PNM leader. We spent 2 years consulting on that in our party. We had ideas as to how it should be done, but we gave the party members an involvement in the process. And then we went to a special convention and voted to eliminate the delegate system. You don't have anybody voting for you. Come and vote for yourself. One man, one vote. Today that is standard in the PNM. Others trying to copy it now and they can't. One man, one vote. That is now the basis on which we elect our party national executive. But at the time when we raised it, there were some persons who were a little queasy about it. There were one or two voices that opposed it up front. But as we discussed it and we explained it on the day of that convention, there were only, I think, 2 votes against it. It was almost unanimously carried. When I came into this office, an elected political leader came into office for 5 years. Again by consultation and collaboration with the party, led by your humble servant, I got the party to agree to reduce the term of the political leader from 5 years to 4 years, and presented myself for re-election on other occasions. The political leader had a total control of the screening committee in our party and had a screening committee to assist the political leader under my leadership. We changed that and gave the screening committee members a vote in their own right in the PNM. Screening committee members no longer vote to assist the political leader. They vote in their own right, yea or nay, to select PNM candidates. So every one of these candidates you see here, they were selected by the clearance and approval of the screening committee of the PNM, voting members on the committee voting in their own right. So they're well screened, they're well selected, and they have the authority of the party to go forward. These are the kind of changes you make. But of course, if that is so, if what I just told you is true, and it is true, why aren't you not surprised that the UNC will be calling me a dictator? Because they like to lie. They like to lie. Like they enjoy it. Plain and simple so. Sometimes the proof is right there in front of them, so the lie can't last too long, and they still would lie. So you in the PNM, you don't have to listen to that. And I'm also saying to UNC members and supporters, don't listen to that. That could only lead you astray and obstruct the nation's development. Come with us, come with the PNM, come let us build our nation together. It is only in the PNM that you will see prominent people from other political parties functioning in the country's business. Because we don't choose people on how loyal they are to the leader as the only criterion. We choose you if you are a citizen subscribing to the very principles that the PNM subscribe to. Because it's not only the PNM that subscribe to those principles, you know. There are other people who don't belong to any political party who they too subscribe to those principles. And if they subscribe to those principles of nation building, then you're welcome to work with and in the PNM for the nation of Trinidad and Tobago. That's what we have to do. And this is the time now to make a decision. We have to make it so that we can move forward and do tomorrow what we weren't doing yesterday. Do better. Tonight, you heard the Agriculture Minister speak here for a moment. We could spend the whole night here talking about agriculture and what the government is doing for agriculture in this country now to put us in a better position tomorrow for agricultural production. This week, we were out visiting forestry, furniture, woodworking business in the Deep South. And a few days before, he was receiving 200,000 pounds of rice seeds to kickstart and regenerate rice production in Trinidad. And I'm warning you all, when the rice is produced, please eat it. Grow what you eat what you grow. Don't leave the Trinidad rice that is grown here and come and tell me you don't have foreign exchange to buy Louisiana parboiled rice. Grow what you eat what you grow. So we are under Minister Cummings, who is heading a brand new ministry of youth development and national service. He gave you a little vignette there about what is happening with respect to preparation for young people, giving them opportunities in those same youth camps that our friends on the other side shut down. They found that the country had done enough for young people, so we could afford to shut down the youth camps. If you talk to them, they might come and tell you, well, we didn't have enough money to keep the youth camps going. That is where you're going to get vexed. You didn't have enough money to keep the youth camps going. So you shut down El Dorado Girls Camp. You shut down Chagaramas Youth Camp. You shut down Chatham. You shut down Presto Presto. But Mamu could get $1 billion to run away with. On one contract. One contract. One man get $1 billion contract. Election night, he gone, never come back. Huh? One minister could approve a purchase of a piece of land that was valued by one valuer at no more than 39 million. Another valuer valued it at 50 million. A minister in that government approved the purchase at 180 million. But you didn't have any money to keep the youth camps open. So young people, you know who was spending this country money on you and for you, and you know who was thieving it. Understand? The last day that they were in office as government, thank God, they removed the clause from a contract on the road to Point 14 that allows the contractor to go away with $921 million in bonds. So when you hear the UNC talking about vote for them because them had a good time, they had a good time, you had a hell of a time. They had a good time. They who did that had a good time. Because no contractor could have changed that bond himself. It had to be elements of the government to change it. And now they're behaving as though these things that I'm telling you here didn't exist. Don't talk about that. Don't talk about that. We have to talk about that, because if you don't talk about it, you would have forgotten it, and you might go and vote for them to put them back into government. We're talking about a local government election, and it doesn't matter what the result is on August 14th, that can't put them back into government. Tell them stop wasting time. What it will do is to determine who will go into local government, who will cooperate with the government and bring about local government reform. Siparia Borough was voted for by the executive in the Siparia Corporation. They're trying their best to pretend as though the government has not heard it and the government has not passed the law to allow Siparia to be the borough. People of Siparia and Faizabad, in the Faizabad borough, you are now without let, hindrance, or discord. You are the borough of Siparia. And so is the borough of Diego Martin. And maybe one of these days, not too far from now, there'll be the city of Chaguanas. I don't know. But that is the evolutionary trend of local government. But they're not participating in that. They don't want no part of that. And they want to tell you that you can only have good governance and you can only have progress in this country while they're in office. I tell you, it is the opposite. There is what magic, you know. They go to Tobago with the same Mamu contractor and build a house for a short jack out of pumpkin and cucumber, you know. One hell of a mansion built out of cucumber and pumpkin sales. That is their record, you know. That is what it's all about. Huh? If we didn't get back that $921 million, that road 2.14, which very soon would be completed, and you will drive on a proper highway from Port of Spain, 2.14, the man gone with $921 million of your money. And the people who do that still are wrong. And why are you surprised? One of them in the parliament right now, this minute, on $1 million bail. But he is the opposition chief whip. They do not qualify to talk to the PNM or to talk to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. They are a bunch of... And somehow believe that if they make enough noise and lies, misrepresentation, feigned anger, that you will somehow see them as your savior. They are not your savior. They are an obstruction to good order in Trinidad and Tobago. And they have a habit always writing letter to foreign countries to nasty up the country name. They must be told to stop doing that. When we went to buy Coast Guard vessels, when this migration started from Venezuela and the criminals were coming to us with drugs and guns, Patrick Manning went through a perfectly transparent process and awarded the contract. His government awarded the contract to Vosper Thornycroft in England, a British shipbuilding company. You know what they did? Without a shred of evidence and not caring about this country's international image, accusing the Prime Minister then of corruption, wrote the Serious Crime Office in England, pretending to be complaining about corruption in the Patrick Manning government on the Vosper Thornycroft contract. Not a shred of evidence, you know. Just make the allegation, nasty up the country name and nasty up the Prime Minister name. That was since Patrick Manning days. And you think that changed? When I went to Australia, at the invitation of the Australian government on an official visit, and used the contact between Trinidad and Tobago and its big sister in the Commonwealth, to get help from Australia to solve our inter-island ferry service. We got 2 of the world's best ferries with the Australian government help. You know what they did? The same way they wrote the British Serious Crime Office to try to nasty up Manning name and Manning government name without a shred of evidence. They wrote the Australian opposition and lied that arrangement of the vessels had corruption. The Australian opposition ignored them. You think they would stop? They then wrote the Australian Attorney General and told him that. And he said to them the simplest thing: if you have evidence of corruption, take it to the Australian police. They had nothing to take, they had nothing to do, because all they were doing was lying on the country and on the country's officers who had worked for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That is UNC style. So when you vote for the PNM, you vote for a body of people who believe that there's decency left in public life and public service is honorable. And if perchance you stay home and don't vote, that is as good as voting for the UNC. And it's as good as saying I'm not interested in local government reform. And I suspect that those of you who will stay home and say that, you will be the first in line to complain about local government not functioning and the system ain't working. The time to do something about it is on election day. And we will be so much stronger as a people. We will be so much more confident in making the change and the evolution of local government if you come out in your numbers and let us get a good poll in support of local government reform. Local government reform is pegged on the fact that we will bring about more improved and expansive management, and it will evolve to take on more and more responsibility, right down to the point where affecting it of approvals. How many times you see something happening in your district where somebody get a VAPS and they want to build something and they're building it in the worst and most dangerous place, either blocking the water course, bringing down a landslide, building in the water course, all those things happening. If you have proper, effective local government with authority to intervene, you could stop some of that nonsense. But you have to have officers of quality, professional officers of integrity, training, and who are properly paid, who will do that. Both will encourage the community, identify where the problems are, and if enforcement is required, then you have enforcement. That is what protects you from those things. There are certain regulations to be followed. One of the problems with our country is that we have 1 million laws and only observing 2. There are some parts of America you go there, you come back here, oh, the place nice, I had a wonderful vacation. You want to prune a tree in your yard, you're required to get permission, but you get a response the very day you ask for permission. Not 2 years later. My cousin remodeling a house, stand back and look at it and say, nice house. It will look a bit better with a nice gallery. So she told the builder, add a little portico in front of the door here for me, man. And he went and did that. And they came to give the final certification and very quietly said, where's your permission for that addition that you put on there? I don't have any, but it's nice, eh? They say, yo, it's very nice. You'll find $15,000. Apply for the permission. But if that is the case, when you apply, there must be a response. And the system will then work. But for there to be a response, you have to have staff that is present and willing to work. That is where we go in. There will be new employment. We have a whole lot of young professional people trained in the university, not properly employed. Local government will provide the opportunity for a lot of good jobs. But all of it will be anchored on a platform of an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. I don't know what else to tell you all, except that this is an opportunity for us as a people to make some significant intervention to continue to improve the quality of our lives. Nobody's going to come and do it for us. We have to do it ourselves. We have walked the journey of preparation. We are almost at the station of completion, but we require your help. We require your approval. We require your engagement. So people of Trinidad, engage the issue of local government reform. Take a side. You are either for it, in which case you support it, or you're against it, or you don't care. Those are the three categories of people. And we are saying, let the majority be for it, and you will have it, and we move on and build a nation together. And as we go forward building this nation, as we did from 1956, 1962, 1976, way stations along the way where we make changes and approvals, we keep making changes to get bigger and stronger and more confident as a nation. And that is always done when the PNM leads you in the right direction. And that direction allows you at the end of the day, as you join us in this nation building exercise, you join us also in saying, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail.